I want to pursue my Cicerone certification. As it's kind of funny, but like, I started getting involved in stuff like this, and I spent less time studying and more time trying to like connect with the community. But I think like there's no need to rush it, because kind of like that's what it's all about, like I want to do one to serve the other, so it doesn't mean I have to like do one first and then the other.
You are listening to the Capital Craft Podcast, brought to you by the San Diego Brewers Guild. I'm your host, Eric Fowler.
And I'm Jeff Fox from Beer Media Co.
I'm Jorge Torres with the Capital Craft Podcast.
What's up, Jorge?
That's what's up.
Excited to have you here with us today on this side of the camera.
Yeah.
You've been an amazing volunteer with the Guild, with helping out different Guild initiatives, craft beer events over the last couple of years. But why don't you give listeners a little glimpse of who you are and why we're sitting down today?
Yeah, for sure. I like to think that like getting involved in the beer industry in the community doesn't always have to be like a strictly professional, you get paid for it kind of thing. And I really resonated with like San Diego as a community and the beer community at large. So I grew up in North County, Escondido specific, and like I dipped out for a good 6 years doing some Navy stuff. Came back home.
No big deal, just serving your country.
Oh, sure, yeah. When I got back though, I was already kind of in love with craft beer at that point and was really excited to see what was going on. Unfortunately, there was a pandemic, and by the time that kind of eased out a little bit, I was raring and ready to get involved in the beer community. So I've been working part-time at Stone, but from there I also been volunteering with the Guild here, with the podcast, and just pursuing like beer education has been really interesting and a part of that whole journey. So meeting a lot of people who are enthusiastic about beer education, whether it's BJCP or Cicerone type stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear like how'd you get passionate about beer? How'd that journey start?
Oh yeah. It all started when I was born. No, it does go back though. Like, my old man and my family, they enjoy themselves a beer. And, I just always remember you grow up and you see your dad and your grandpa and your uncles drinking a beer and you think it's kind of cool, and I definitely held on to that. My dad would drink craft beer occasionally too. And, when I ended up starting to drink a little bit when I was older, I just had like a moment where it was like an aha moment where I had like my first like really impressive craft beer. And I feel like a lot of us have that, where it's like the brewery really put in the time to like, they picked out like a specific glass, and like the glass was like perfectly clean, and it was like one of their flagship beers or like a very special beer, and the way it's presented to you and the way you sit down, you enjoy, you take a sip and you're like, wow, like I didn't even know like beer could do that. And I think that like that was like one of the big clicks for me as I was like getting excited about beer.
Yeah. So what's so important to you about the connection of being local, right? There's great tasting beer and you can get it anywhere, which is a really good problem for us to have.
Yeah.
But what about you felt that personal connection? Like, what really drives you to continue to be out involved in events and visiting those tap rooms specifically?
Yeah, I think that, growing up, community and service, they go hand in hand, wanting to be a part of that and feeling like you're a part of something. But, what better way to like serve your community by like showing appreciation for something that they've done, and like when you think about craft beer, it really feels like it's got that grassroots start. Like it's artisanal in that sense, but like it's about like the community. It starts with the community, and like even the biggest breweries wouldn't be where they are without the locals who just really came back again and again and shared how much they appreciate the product and the brand and all that. So it feels like it's really cool that that's just like saturated the entire San Diego community, and like there's sub communities, North County, downtown, it's just like everybody's got like a good few breweries that they end up going to regularly because they're closer by. But yeah, community just feels like such a huge part of craft beer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I knew we were going to sit down and just kind of learn a little bit more about you today, I was thinking back to some of my core beer memories. And as somebody, whether my doctor would agree with me or not, has had, probably tens of thousands of beers, I can still think back and like remember specific instances and examples and experiences of certain beers and certain times and places, you know, of where that clicked, right? I remember just after Thanksgiving, my aunt leaving a Karl Strauss Amber Lager in my fridge, and I had thought that I don't want to say I didn't think I didn't like beer, but you know, most of the examples I had were a lot of like Coors and, you know, just beers that didn't really resonate with me. And I remember popping that and drinking. I remember where I was in my house drinking that, and it wasn't like this is the best thing I ever had, but it was like this could be pretty good, and I think I could like this. So like, what are, you know, even recently, like what's an experience that you've had, whether it's in San Diego or somewhere you've traveled, that has really stood out to you as exemplifying that craft beer community?
Oh, wow. You know, I think recently, and I don't know if this is like taboo, and that they're not like strictly a brewery, but they're like a beer bar. I went to Clem's, and oh man, just like their Belgian room
In Kensington?
It's amazing, you know. The service there is just amazing, and the beer is fantastic. They have a dedicated Belgian room where they'll like have other Belgian beers, but they also will celebrate like local Belgian styles and like local breweries, and it's just like, you know, that the quality of like the draft system there is incredible, and you can just know that there's a lot of appreciation that goes into like beer as a whole there, and having bars like that are like a huge hub and proxy for like the soul enthusiasm of craft beer in the community, I think. You know, additionally, you know, I feel like I have this experience when I go to like Battle Mage Brewery, that, you know, they have like a huge community there. Their mug club, I love when breweries have a mug club for their regulars, you know. It's just, you get a big old like flagon sized pint if you're part of that, and it feels like very like, they're very high fantasy and like kind of nerdy-esque there. I love it, and it definitely has that like you're in a tavern with a big flagon of beer kind of vibe when you do that. So things like that, they really add to the experience, you know?
Hey everyone, I'm Councilmember Jeff Fox, and I'm thrilled to announce the return of a fan favorite to downtown Vista. Rhythm and Brews is back. Join us Saturday, June 28th from 1 to 4 p.m. at the corner of Citrus and Broadway for Rhythm and Brews 2025, a high-energy celebration of local craft beer and live music in the heart of our historic downtown. Over 30 independent breweries are pouring their best, and there's a great entertainment lineup, including Loom, Soul Cellar, and DJ Goldie. This event, organized by the San Diego Brewers Guild, is part of San Diego Beer Weekend and celebrates why we're proud to call this region the capital of craft. It's been over 5 years since the festival came back to Vista, so let's give it a proper welcome back. Grab your tickets now at sdbeer.com, and I'll see you there. Cheers to Downtown Vista.
Vista's craft beer celebration is here. 10 full days of hops, pours, art, and epic showdowns. Kick it off with the Bev Art Show, a free self-guided art walk from June 20th to 30th along Paseo Santa Fe, spotlighting the design magic behind your favorite beer labels, merch, and murals. From June 24th to 26th, Eat Week. Eat or drink at any downtown Vista spot and earn free tickets to Beer vs. Wine Sip-Off. Friday, June 27th, it's the ultimate Beer vs. Wine Sip-Off at the Avo Theater. A 6-person panel blind tastes local brews and wines and debates who reigns supreme, hopheads or vino swirlers. And yes, you get to taste and vote too. Tickets available now at bevartshow.com or earn yours during Eat Week while supplies last. Then, Saturday, June 28th, we close it all out with the Rhythm and Brews Festival. 30-plus independent breweries, live music, and all the SD beer you can handle right in downtown Vista. This 10-day celebration is powered by the San Diego Brewers Guild, the City of Vista, and downtown Vista businesses. Head to bevartshow.com for full details. Let's raise a glass to the capital of craft.
Yeah, you both visit Battle Mage quite a bit.
We go
right?
together, yeah. We're part of the same little D&D groups. And all that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
and so, I mean, that's like, obviously the beer's great and a big catalyst for you being there, but what really draws you both individually to a place, specifically Battle Mage?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing that actually makes beer is such an interesting thing is that the beer itself is a huge part of it, and then the community, and there's so many other parts that go into the experience that are important. I think when Jorge was talking about like the community there at Battle Mage in particular, because it has such a subculture vibe with like that nerdy thing, and they have so many nerdy style events and stuff that we enjoy. I think that was originally, I went there for an event and really had a good time, and then was like, wait, this beer is really good, and so it was like, wow, it has the best, it actually checks both boxes, like, where world-class, amazing, award-winning beer mixed with a subculture that I'm part of, with events that I enjoy, all in one space. So the fact that and of course, like, you make the relationships with the people that work there, with the brewers, the front of house, all that. And so, now we have those interesting relationships with, the people that work there. And so it's like, you kind of create this whole community inside. We know a lot of the people that when we go, consistently, we know most of the people there. So you create like those kinds of little sub communities around something like a beverage, which is really cool.
Yeah. When you're looking to become part of a community or expand the community, invite others into it, the values of that community are very important, right? And ensuring that you have shared values, and quality beer is definitely a top value, but so is finding a place that's inviting and welcoming, and somewhere you're able to express yourself, whether it's nerdy board games or sports, or whatever type of that sub community is.
Absolutely. I mean, was that the same for you, like with Battle Mage in particular?
Absolutely. I went in there, I was just kind of curious, like I had some free time, and I just gotten out of like a part of my like school work juggling sprint where I was like, I want to go and like visit some more breweries in the area, and I just wanted to like pop in, because gosh, we have so many, I can't even give all the breweries a chance as often as I'd like to, but they hooked me. I got in there and I was like, oh, what's this about? And they invited me to play a game at some point, and I said, I don't know, that seems like there's a lot, because it's a big community. I think that actually is kind of representative of like the way I felt about the professional beer industry also, and like there's already like so much passion there by people who are fairly established. It can be intimidating to get involved, but when I gave myself a chance to get involved, you find people who are very welcoming, and you hit it off with them, and then you stick around and invest more of yourself into those communities, whether it's playing D&D or it's being involved here in the Brewers Guild,
Yeah. So who has inspired you to feel comfortable, to encourage you to look at being part of the beer community, and what have you done to really give back, and what are you looking forward to, as your career and interest continues to develop?
I'm glad you asked that. Like I think when I was not too far off from that same time that I was trying to try more breweries, I was also studying a lot for my Cicerone, which I still haven't gotten my level 2 yet. I'm close, but I was studying a lot for it, and I was trying to just see what other people were doing, and I was just trying to follow on social media all the breweries, anybody who did beer education, and Chris Guzman, who was with Pure Project at the time, he was hosting a beer and cheese pairing, and I signed up to go get a plate. I had a friend, and we went, and I recognized him from, he actually had hosted my tasting exam for the Cicerone certification, and I reached out to him after I did like the beer and cheese pairing. I took my notes and everything on it. Maybe I took it too seriously. I don't know. I had a great time. But when I told him, I said, hey, I really stoked about this pairing. I've been trying to get more involved in like beer education and stuff like that. Would you recommend I do anything or reach out to anyone? And he was on the Brewers Guild Education Committee at the time. And he said, yeah, absolutely. Let me reach out to Eric and Jake at the time. And he hooked us up in an email. You guys welcomed me to sit in on some committee meetings, and I've been present at mostly all of them since then, just trying to do what I can to contribute to it, setting up for all the tap into knowledge and the San Diego Brewers Convention stuff. It's been really welcoming in that sense. Everybody there was really welcoming. And then I will shout you out also. I think you specifically told me at one of the Brewers Conventions, when I was trying to be humble because I knew that I was pretty green to the industry. And you said, hey, you gotta stop doing that, man. You know, like you're here, you're putting a lot of your time and effort into supporting the convention and the guild. But yeah, you got to give yourself some more credit for what you're doing. And yeah, definitely people like yourself and Chris, among many others, you know, made me feel welcome here. As for like what I plan to do, I think one is still, I want to pursue my Cicerone certification. You know, I think as it's kind of funny, but like, you know, I started getting involved in stuff like this and I spent less time studying and more time trying to like connect with the community. But I think like there's no need to rush it because kind of like that's what it's all about, you know, like I want to do one to serve the other. So it doesn't mean I have to like do one first and then the other. I'd still like to get that. I've been getting into beer writing a little bit, you know, that's been exciting. So things along that line, you know, those lines there, I'd like to just really develop my beer education so I can continue to be like a conduit for that for my friends who like, I love when people come to me and they're just like, hey, I don't really know what this means when I'm looking at a beer. Can you tell me? Or like, what do you think I should do? Should I pair this beer with that? And I'm like, oh yeah, for sure. Like that stuff gets me so jazzed. I get really excited about it. So I think being able to do that more often in the future would be a dream for me.
Yeah, this season of the Capital Craft podcast, we're looking at, you know, individuals like yourself and trying to, you know, really pin down that passion and see how we can, you know, spread it and get more people excited like you are. But maybe you could talk a little bit about what your experience like on that committee is when it comes to balancing work-life balance, also volunteering for a nonprofit like the Guild, and like what time demands, what type of work you've done, and you know, what you've enjoyed most out of it. Because that's a question we get a lot is, you know, people want to contribute, but they're worried on how do I balance this? How much time is it going to take? And it really varies. So maybe you could share your experience with that.
Yeah. You know, coming in to the committee for the San Diego Brewers Guild Education Committee specifically, I felt like it was, you guys didn't expect anything from me, and you actually, you know, you welcomed my questions and my feedback here and there. And I think that there was a very low time commitment that was needed, but there was a lot of time that I could invest as well, where when some of the sprints feel like when we're coming up on the actual Brewers Convention that happens during the summer every year, and setting up those panels and everything. And it can be, you can get really involved if it's something that you feel like you're able to take on. You're like, yeah, I can chase down a coffee truck. I can figure out who can speak on this panel. And if not, you know, you can go to the next person and you can kind of like help curate a good experience for that all. So there was room to not be as involved, but be present. And that's kind of where I was initially, where it was like, I don't know as many people who can talk to this topic or that topic, but I was able to spit out one or two, and we got some great guests that first time. I was stoked to be able to contribute to that. And then on top of that, like, it can be something like, we need someone who's going to be able to like run to grab ice down the street when we're low, or at the actual convention. Like, we need people to pour, we need people to like break open boxes and sort stuff out, to carry stuff to and from the trucks. And that's always helpful, because it feels like there's, every now and then, like in those brief moments, there's just too many volunteers, but in the times when you really need people, you really need people. And that's been really rewarding too, you know, to be able to like pour beers for people who are also passionate about it. When people are there, it's professionals and enthusiasts alike, you know, and it's a pretty cool experience to be able to like share those beers and help them out, you know?
Yeah. And that committee's been, you know, pretty structured and run really well for a good number of years. So, you know, that one was really nice to have you come in on. And, you know, the way that committee and others work is, you know, it's like a monthly meeting just to check in on progress on certain things and make sure we're working towards certain initiatives or big events in case of that one. But then, yeah, when San Diego Craft Beer Con comes, you know, in your case, it's like you're calling into an hour meeting once a week for the month before, and then showing up, and it's like a 12-hour plus day. It's a long day. With that said, we're always happy to have anybody that can come in, even just to help check people in for 2 hours here or there. It's the guild and life in general is you get out of it what you put in. And it can be flexible, and a little bit is a lot more meaningful than not at all.
I think it's actually a really important part, which is this whole series about create like building that and spreading that passion. But what do you do with passion, right? Is you have to apply it, and so taking that passion
spread it and share it,
and getting involved, and then meeting the right people, all that, and getting involved in the industry, you're able to actually act on your passion. I think that makes it a lot more fulfilling. So is that a good word for it? Maybe.
Yeah, fulfilling for sure.
A passion that's unfulfilled is kind of sad.
Yeah.
So
but I certainly feel fulfilled. It's been really rad. People receive the enthusiasm really well, and that kind of like continues to encourage one to keep going and keep doing what they're doing. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people who work professionally in beer can resonate with. Like it feels cool to have your work appreciated, whether your work is serving at the bar, bussing those tables, or you're the actual brewer who is creating this amazing product that we're all sharing, across the table from one another.
Yeah. So what would be like one takeaway if someone's kind of listening to this podcast and they hear your story and they resonate with it, that they're passionate about beer, they like beer? What advice would you give them?
Oh yeah. Just keep digging, like you want to learn more about something, like figure out like what you can do to learn more about it. But like you want to like give back, go to your local brewery and just make sure you tell them like, I dig this. Like I really love what you guys are doing, asking what they're planning to do. If they have any secret sauce that they can tell you about their brewery, ask if you can help out at a event, you can reach out to the Brewers Guild and you can help out, I'd really love to see people start to recognize like the San Diego Beer Week stuff again too. That'd be really cool, because that, I feel like there was a lot of hype around that in the time a little bit before I had come back to San Diego. And I'd love for like the community at large to know, even people who don't drink beer, to like know that we have San Diego Beer Week, like I'd like someone be like, I don't drink beer, but San Diego Beer Week is a pretty big deal, and people will travel to come and check it out. Like go to your brewery, tell them I would love to see what you guys are doing for Beer Week, and they aren't excited about it because they don't know that the consumers are excited about it. So it's a give and take there. But yeah,
I couldn't agree with that more, and that's something that we've been talking about internally and with anybody that'll listen for the last couple months. It's really that a hurdle that the industry is facing right now is the coming of age population not really engaging with craft beer as much.
Yeah.
But to your point, we're not giving them opportunities to, and you're seeing a lot of breweries or even guild events, which we're slowly changing, not really put the effort in and not create these opportunities for people to come. And it used to be there was tap takeovers and Keep the Glass and just what we call silly events now. There used to be Meet the Brewer. There used to be events all the time, and so you would catch people that were unsuspecting, but we don't have as much of that anymore. And we wonder why younger people aren't coming to drink as much, because the opportunity for them to get involved is not there like it was 10 years ago. And I think as an industry, we need to acknowledge that. And we also need to be okay with creating an event that only 20 people come to.
Yeah.
Because if you keep doing it, maybe those 20 will turn to 30, turn to 40. And next thing you know, we'll have this influx of new, inspired, connected consumers.
Yeah.
Hey, you can build those passions, build the culture. Like all those things are contributing towards a greater culture.
Yeah, and culture. Just reminding ourselves, because we've experienced it. Well, somebody turning 21 hasn't,
right?
So you can't shut the door on them potentially having that aha moment that you've spent the last half hour talking with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're also involved in this podcast. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do with the podcast?
Oh man. what don't I do? There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things I don't do for the podcast. There are things that I do, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. You know, I think it's the big ones are just reaching out to guests, brainstorming topic ideas, thinking about what the community might want to hear, whether you're on the professional side or the consumer side as an enthusiast. Maybe you're both, but like there's a scratch there that we all want to see, like what's going on behind the curtain, like what is San Diego beer. And I think like it's cool to be able to help curate that with what you guys are doing here at the podcast. So yeah, I've been stoked to be a part of it.
And I'll say it's been very helpful for me, and I won't speak for Eric as well, but you know, I think it's been an absolute pleasure working with you on this kind of stuff. But where do you kind of see the podcast going? What are your goals for it?
Oh yeah, I think that I would be stoked if this podcast became like the standard or a glowing example for other guilds and communities like around the country, even internationally. You know, that might be over ambitious, but I think there's no shame in being ambitious about stuff like that, where it is going to be reflective of the community. You know, like you get to put a face to what's going on in those industries, and I think that when you can look back at that, people for generations to come will be able to be like, that's really cool, I want to get involved with that. And you hear about what's going on, and it's just it's more like there's something more substantive about it when you have the podcast here, where we can just come together and talk about what's going on in the community and the industry with beer.
That's awesome. If anybody wanted to connect with you, what's the best way of reaching you?
Oh man, I think that they probably could reach out to me on LinkedIn. Actually, that's a weird plug for some people. Jorge Torres on LinkedIn, and they can find me on Instagram. I'm Jorge_confirmed. So that's not too hard to find. I'm pretty recognizable on both of those platforms, I think, even though Jorge Torres is like a somewhat common name. Hopefully there's enough algorithm connection there to, you know, you can find me. Yeah, reach out, send me a DM. I'd love to connect with other people out there.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to the Capital of Craft podcast. Thank you for listening. And if you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe, and you can follow us at SD Brewers at Instagram, and we'll see you on the next one.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.